So I came into the shop tonight to get some of my work done on our 383, and I had a pleasant surprise. While I was gone, Al painted the roll bar and slag hammer red. Look at that. It just pops. It's like jewelry, right? Not only do I love this car, I love the idea of this car. So a couple of you guys, yesterday we did that video on back-facing valves, and we referenced this car, and you didn't know what it was. So let me give you a quick rundown for you, in case you don't know. You haven't been following it. This is Project Slag Hammer. This has been an ongoing project on this channel for about 1.5 years now. And originally it was going to be an off-road car. And then we decided to change direction and do a 1960s, 70s street freak / gasser out of it. And that's what we got here now. So it started out as a 4-door, it was a parts car, it was a completely stripped parts car. It started as a 4-door, we did a 2-door conversion on it, and the body is mounted mounted actually on, it's channeled down over a shortened 1971 Dodge D100 frame, pickup truck frame. So that's what we got over here. And it's got a tilt nose. It's super traditional. Not only do I love this car, I love the idea of this car. So the first part of the build was all basically on this channel. Mopar Al joined the team in November, and for the last month or two, all of the basic updates on this car have been on his channel. So you can follow that. You can follow the car itself there at Mopar Al. So go over there, check that out, give him a sub. Great guy, right? Hard worker. Really creative too. So go give him a sub, check that out. And that's the car. Right now, we're getting this ready for Power Tour, which is about 8 weeks from right now. And then from there, the No Name Nationals, where it's already got a race. She's already been called out. So we're getting everything set now. And this is the 383 that's going in it. And this is the induction system that's going on it. We still have to go through this. Lots of work to do there. And these are the heads for that engine. And this is what we've been working on. So yesterday we talked about back-facing the valves. And today I want to talk about detailing the cylinder heads. So now, what is detailing a cylinder head? It's sort of like blueprinting a cylinder head. You could use that, either term would kind of be accurate. Detailing a head is the middle ground between leaving the head stock the way it was, just the way you got it, and a full-on port job. Now, stock the way you got it can have a lot of flaws. An all-out port job is extensive and best left to somebody who's got a flow bench and all of that. But for a home builder, for a guy who's doing this stuff at his house, hand tools, trying to get the biggest bang for the buck with the parts that he's got to work with, detailing cylinder heads can go a long way. But of course, a lot of that depends on what you're starting with. Example, I was over at my friend Dallas's house about a month ago, and he had a 430 Buick head that was blown apart. And I'm looking this thing over, and it's like it was one of the most beautiful, perfect castings I've ever seen. The ports were perfect. The bowls were perfect. Everything inside of it, like I'm looking at this head and I'm saying, there's nothing I could do with a grinder to like improve this. This is perfect. The only thing you could do with this to go any further is to give it an actual port job. And that's where you start changing contours and you start enlarging things in the name of volume, in the name of flow. But as far as just cleaning up the mistakes that may have been made during the casting process, there was nothing to be done. On the flip side of that, being a Mopar guy, I deal with a lot of big block, small block Mopars. And I got to tell you, they're not the best as far as, okay, the castings themselves, the metal is usually extremely good. The machine work is usually extremely good. But something gets lost in the translation between the designer, the engineer's vision for the ports and the bowls and what actually comes out at the foundry when they're finished. And that's because mass production and low budget production, low volume production, they didn't get the best care at the foundry. So the sand used for the castings was inconsistent. Sometimes it would flake out or chunk out and leave lumps and weirdnesses inside the bowls and inside the ports. Sometimes the when the casting, when the halves of the casting, the mold were put together, they weren't laid quite right, or when the sand cores were placed in there, they weren't placed quite right. So you'll find like the ports will have like and even the bowls will have like a kick over, right? Like where you could see where things just weren't lined up. Nobody took any care when they assembled the molds for the casting, and this shows up. Like I says, the metallurgy on these castings is generally extremely good. The machining is extremely good. But inside, you're going to find a lot of weirdnesses and a lot of imperfections. And cleaning those up, that's where the detailing comes in. And now, for a home guy, this is what you're going to understand, right? If you're porting a head, it's extensive. You really need to know what you're doing. You really need to know what areas you can work with, what areas you can't. And then you've got water jackets, you've got spark plug, or not spark plug, you've got push rod tube interferences, you've got all sorts of things that you have to be aware of when you go in there and you start porting. And if you don't know what you're doing and you just go in there and just start hogging things out, you could kill the flow of the head. You could make a mediocre thing bad. Whereas if you're just a typical home guy and you're just looking to get the biggest bang for your buck out of the parts that you've already got, well, that's where detailing comes in. And anybody can do this. And you can do this without any worry of damaging the casting, of hurting flow, of breaking through water jackets. It's time consuming. You're gonna devote a lot of time to this. To do a pair of cylinder heads, you're probably putting 8 to 10 hours aside just to detail them out. So what is this detailing? Well, first off, what do you need to detail with? Well, the first thing you need is a basic die grinder like these. You pick this up at Harbor Freight. This is like a $70 piece. You need a good burr, right? Like that. Now you can get these at Fastenal. There's a few different places you can get burrs like this. Don't buy the cheap $15 eBay specials. They're no good. They'll come apart. They don't last. They can actually be dangerous. But that's all you need in terms of equipment to do this. And your goal as you're going through the head is to find imperfections and straighten them out. The most common example of this is gasket matching the intakes. Everybody knows about gasket matching the intakes. So that's where you take a gasket, you lay it over the intake, you scribe or you paint around it so you have the outline of the gasket, and then you take your grinder and you open it up to meet the gasket. And you'll always find that these are going to be off. They're always going to be smaller than the gasket opening. So that's your first step, is just gasket matching. And you can do this on both the intake and the exhaust side, right? So on this cylinder head, we found that this section, this divider, this was cast really weird. It was almost twice as thick at the bottom as it was at the top. So we evened that out. We raised the port. Up here inside the port, there was a big step right here. So we took as much of that down as possible. There is still some up in there. You can feel it. But if we go any further, we'll be raising the port beyond the gasket. So that's as far as we're going to go with that. The floor's cleaned up nicely. The sides cleaned up nicely. You don't have to go nuts. You can see actually, if you look in there, you can see where there's still some rusty area. That's a low area that we didn't want to go any further, because if we had gone further, we'd actually be changing the size and the contour of the port. So we just left the low spots alone. That's the thing, when you're detailing, if you come across a low spot while you're detailing, just leave them alone. We did the same thing here inside the bowls. We took down, there's that lump or that flat spot alongside the valve guide. We trim that down so that it flows nicely into where the valve guide goes. We clean up the back part of the bowl right here. There's like a squarish lump. So all we did was we blended that. And there was another thing that was very inconsistent. You went from port to port and you found that this lump was different on almost all of them. It wasn't the same. So they're all as evened out as I care to make them. I don't really want to go much further than that. But blending all of this in, cleaning this area up so that it actually matches the contour of the valve. This area right here intrudes somewhat, so we took our grinder and we basically contoured it. We trimmed it and contoured it in the direction of flow, right? So it's coming in this way. So when we went in there with, let me get this. When we went in here with this, we were working it like this, in this direction, just like that. And like I says, we cleaned up the outside of it so that now it's matches the inner part of the bowl, the throat over here matches the seat. Where before there were all sorts of overhangs, it was very inconsistent. And we did that both on the intake and the exhaust side. The exhaust, we spent a little extra time getting this area around the stem smoothed out so that as the exhaust hits it, it doesn't come across any sharp objects or sharp, ledges or anything like that. It's able to flow easily past it. And then on the exhaust side, we did the same as we did on the intake. We gasket matched it to a set of header gaskets. So this is actually pretty significantly larger than it originally started out. There's a bunch of grinding in here, but we got it to the size, to the original intended size. And actually, if you could compare it to this Edelbrock head, you can see the ports are actually pretty close to what you got with this Edelbrock head. So that's the basics of detailing the ports and the bowls. And every head is going to be different, and every head, like, I can't really tell you, here, do this specifically or do that specifically, because every head is just a little bit different, because they're all cast, they're all going to be machined exactly the same, but the casting is going to vary from head to head, from manufacturer to manufacturer, from era to era. So I can't give you a specific guideline here, do this, do that, because there is no specific guideline. You're going in there just with the idea of interpreting what was originally intended by the engineer, what was drawn out, and eliminating any flaws or inconsistencies that occurred during the casting process. I'm going to tell you right now, in some cases, it's worth like no horsepower or 2 horsepower. In some cases, and I am not exaggerating one bit, in some cases it's worth 40 or 50 horsepower. I've had these big block Mopar cylinder heads, 906s especially. 906s, I know that it's known as the good head, but 906s are notoriously inconsistent. You pop the valves out of those things, you never know what you're going to find inside of there. And that's one of the reasons why you had those great discrepancies in the way cars ran. Like you take for example, you have a 69 Roadrunner, 3D3, 4-speed, okay? And you have 2 of them. One of them will go like bottom 14s, dead stock, just the way it came off the showroom floor. One of them will run like 14.0, tickling at 13s. They run just strong and hard, and then you'll have exactly the same car, exactly the same options, same tranny, same rear, same everything, right? And it'll barely crack the 15s. Why, right? What's the difference? They've got the same crank, they got the same pistons, they got the same cam, they have the same intake, the same carburetor, the same everything. Why is one so strong and the other one is a turd? It's in the cylinder heads, because the one with the better, like as close to hand-laid cores as you can get, is going to flow the way it's intended to flow. And the one that was just done on the 3rd shift by somebody who's been, sneaking like beers in between, right? That one's going to be a mess, because they just slam in the casting, the cores together, and sand falls out and all sorts of weirdnesses. As long as it passes a basic visual check as it comes through, they send it. And then it goes the next step, and it's assembled by people who don't care that there's an extra lump of metal in the middle of the port, or the opening is like shaped, like a friggin' cannoli, okay? They don't care. They're just gonna bolt it together and send it. So that's why you have such great differences, great discrepancies in classic era cars on the way they ran. So one other thing to show you on this, as far as detailing goes. Now, we did a lot around here. So let me get a pointer. So here, next to the exhaust, okay, we clean this area up somewhat. See, we just took the grinder. All we did here was just clean this up, just clearance it a little bit away from the exhaust valve. We did the same on the intake right here. We didn't go nuts with it. Just clean it up and contour it. This, before we started, actually was more of a straight line. So we created a little bit more of a radius to match the radius of the seat, and the same thing here. Okay, and then also what we did was we went around the perimeter of the chamber here. We put this on top of the block. We saw where the overhang was. We didn't take out all the overhang because that really would have entailed coming further this way than we wanted to, but we did clean it up somewhat, and this has all been cleaned and radiused. So before we did it, you could run your finger across here, and this was a very sharp edge right here. And now it's not a sharp edge. Now it's got a nice clean radius. And why that's, and all the way around. And why that's important is that under severe conditions, those sharp overhangs, those sharp ledges inside the combustion chamber can start to act like glow plugs, and you'll end up with a detonation issue. I had a problem. This is going back years ago. This is like back in the 80s. I had a 68 Barracuda, a 318 car. It was my daily driver. It was just to go to work car, okay? And this thing pinged. No matter what I did, it had spark knock. It had crazy spark knock. Just driving down the road, give it a little bit of gas, and it would start rattling. And I did everything I could possibly do. I mean, premium fuel, octane boosters, back in the timing, back to where it barely friggin' ran, and actually that made it even worse. And no matter what I did with this thing, it would knock, it would ping and rattle like crazy as soon as it got hot. Eventually I says, all right, well, it must have a blown head gasket. It must be sharing, between two cylinders. So took the top end of the motor apart, put fresh head gaskets in it, checked the surfaces, everything was good, put it all back together again. And again, it was just the same thing, just rattling and pinging and knocking. And I was at my wit's end. Couldn't figure out what was going on. Finally, I take the motor apart again, and I'm looking over the cylinder heads, and I found that one of the combustion chambers had like let me get over here. I don't remember exactly where in the chamber it was, but it had like an occlusion, right? An occlusion is an area where the sand fell out, and you'll have an opening there, okay? It was close to the surface, and it was an area that overhung the combustion chamber. So as the engine was running, this area right here, where this little divot was, this area here got hot enough that it started to act like a glow plug. So no matter what you did to this thing, once the engine reached temperature, that would actually act as, and that's where my spark knot came from. Drove me out of my mind. It was the first and the last time I ever came across that specific problem. But it always stuck in my head that anything that overhangs the chamber has a possibility of becoming a glow plug and creating detonation, havoc, and undiagnosable problems. So that's it. That's basic detailing. And like I said, it's the kind of thing that anybody can do this. If you could take a cylinder head apart, then you're capable of doing this. And as long as you stick to just cleaning up the imperfections, finding the not the problem areas, but finding the areas that aren't the way they're supposed to be or aren't up to par, that are a little rougher than they should be, okay? As long as you stick to just finding those things and just smoothing them out, creating what the engineer had intended it to be, you have no danger of screwing up the flow on the head. You have no danger of breaking through water jackets or anything like that. Just take your time, go easy, go slow, right? You have to zen out. You know what I mean? You got to zen out. You got to enjoy the process and just become one with your cylinder head, and your grinder, and just, right? You can do it. And I'm telling you, some engines, the gain is minimal, and some engines, the gain is astronomical. Like, I'm telling you, if you're dealing with like a big block Mopar, late 60s, early 70s, big block Mopar, I'm telling you, crack those heads apart. Look what's going on inside those ports, inside those bowls, and you will not believe the mess that you'll find in some of these things. So that's it. I hope you got something out of that, and I'm going to continue on with this, and I'll see you tomorrow.